Hey, happy Tuesday with Tamika. Thank you guys so much for joining me for yet another episode of Tuesday with Tamika, where y'all already know what it is. We believe in lifting as we climb, turning those trials into treasures, living a life to inspire and not impress, opening up and allowing God to fully restore you, and loving as if you have never been hurt. Right before I hit record, I was on a session with a client and we were talking about the calm before the storm, or actually the calm in the storm. The story really of Jesus and the disciples on the water, and this storm is raging, and then Jesus is just really big chill in the boat, and he's like, "What's wrong with y'all?" Right? And he tells the storm, "Peace, be still." And one of the additions, or one of the versions of that story, it says that the disciples were on a lake and they were literally a mile from shore. And when I shared that with her, I was trying to explain to her, a lot of times there's so much going on around us. There's so much hectic activity, but we're right from, like, literally very close to where God is telling us, "I'm about to get you out of this storm. I'm about to get you out of this boat." As long as we don't walk away from it.
Mhm.
I feel like today's guest is really going to be able to give some good insight to that story and give insight to how do we handle the storm that's around us. Because ultimately, when we stay in the boat and we allow Jesus to be our peace, amazing things come out of it. We can't see it when we're in the storm, but at the end, when we get to the shore, when we get out of that boat, we're able to look back and say, "I made it." I don't want to take any more time on that story. I really want the listening audience, TWT family, I want you guys to hear this amazing story that I'm getting ready to bring up. So without further ado, hey, Ahmad, you got a minute?
I do, Tamika. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate you inviting me onto your show and the amazing platform you put together. I'm sure your guests are absolutely blessed to hear you on a weekly basis. And I'm grateful to be here. You're not connected via email and and connection in there. And I remember you sharing how we have something in common with one another, and our stories sort of aligned, and we'll get into a lot of that later. But it's interesting, after all we've been through, and you were just talking about how the calm in the storm, the calm before the storm, the calm after the storm. The bottom line is the storm is consistent. And the beautiful thing about that is that, I mean, you just chose a young man who's just from a small town in Texas, who had a pen in his hand and a dream. And so, for us to come full circle and be in this place, as followers of Christ, and just be here to share with the people and say, we may have a resume, I may have a bio, and your people can go pull it up. My bio is all over the place. But at the end of the day, I'm just a guy trying to figure this thing called life out. And I've done some things that have gone well, and I've done some things that have gone horribly wrong. But here we are in this place with the receipts, the scars, the testimonies to be able to come together and say, you know what? I may have not have been through what you've been through, but you know what? We do know that there are some storms. And I know one thing, not only is there a rain jacket, but we serve a great God who is going to bring us through that. And hopefully we can look into more opportunities to be able to share with the people how to get out of their current storm, or recovery from the one they just came out of.
So good. I love that, those analogies that you used. And I often say, whenever I get ready to speak, that I have the bio, I have all of those things, but that's not what truly qualifies me. What qualifies me is really the hell that I had to go through to sit in the seat or on the stage that I'm at today. And I want to talk about that. A lot of times the social media highlights, the stories that we put in Insta stories or Facebook stories, it doesn't show those scars. As you said, it doesn't show those true receipts. We could talk about the degrees and the books and all the things that we've done, but I feel like what truly qualifies us is the things that we may not post about, the things that we may not share in on our Instagram stories, our Instagram reels, or TikTok, or wherever So I want to talk about those things that truly qualify you. The what put the pen in your hand, because we have that pen in our hand, and the words that are written between birth and between death, that's what got us here today. So share with the TWT family a little more about you and some of those scars or some of those receipts that got you to sit here and to be able to wear the freedom. Listen, because you're wearing it, brother.
I love this shirt. At our church here in the Woodlands, Texas, we have what's called a Freedom Conference. And so when you sign up, you get a shirt that says freedom. And if you serve with the church, the shirt has freedom. And to me, it's a shirt that just encapsulates, it doesn't need much introduction, but can definitely bring a lot of conversation. And, you come and you release all the stuff that's been holding you down, because the bottom line is that we all have anchors. We all have weights. We all have depressions. We all have, like you said, scars. We have a guilt, shame, resentment, all the things that we're called to forgive. We still hold on to, because it's like when someone says, I'm over it, and it's just like, but are you? Right. And I mean, I'm talking to myself too, because a lot of times I'll be like, man, I've been over that. But it's just like the fact that I even need to respond in that way lets me know that there's still a percentage of it that's in there with me. And so when we talk about, like you said, the social media and the bios and the resume, I was like, what's in between those dashes and those resumes? Debt,
Come
divorce,
on.
abuse, alcoholism, sexual immorality. I mean, let's the lit gluttony, just all of the things that are wrong in our lives. Those dark times when we're sitting in a corner where all of the joys of life or the American dream is all in our hands, yet we're sitting in the fetal position crying in our secondary bedroom.
Mm.
Why? Because there's a yearning, because even those who are on this podcast right now, who are on the Christian journey, they're on, exercising the Great Commission and going out and sharing the good news. Like, a lot of people say, okay, like once you accept Christ and you got the Bible, they see you read every day, you pray, and you have praise and worship. It's like, you do realize the game gets a little bit more difficult the more you dip into here. Because I was sharing with somebody the other day, I was like, I'm really up in my Bible reading. I said, but when I just kind of had the word and it was on the shelf and the outline of dust was on it, right? Because it's been sitting there so long, you pull it out every once in a while, but it still has that dusty on the nightstand. I was like, life seemed to be slightly easier. What do
Mm.
I mean by that? I didn't believe that I had as many roadblocks in front of me. It seemed like when I did something, it's like I call it like boom, it's done. I still have some issues here and there, but it's like the storm, it went from like a category 2 to a category 4 once I
Mm.
started working with the youth at my church, once I started proclaiming my faith in my business, once I started reading the word at a level where I'm not just reading because it's a checklist. I'm reading it because I want to understand, and I want to be able to go out, and when I share the gospel, I can say, when I think of Romans 12:2, this is how I turned out from that. Like, not just I know it because I can recite it, because I wasn't a great student anyway. But the bottom line is that when the word becomes flesh, then now you just see things differently. And so when we're talking about those times in between the dash, in between the job, in between the marriage, from your first kid to your second kid, there's a whole litany of things, like you said, we just don't post about. But sometimes we're really dying inside.
Mm.
But then again, if we think about it and we're reading the text correctly, we are supposed to die of
Mm.
ourselves.
Mhm.
And the last I checked, whether you're talking about the caterpillar to the butterfly, whether you're talking about childbirth, whether you're talking about a level of transformation, whether you're talking about death to resurrection, that's painful. That hurts. In fact, we could even say it's excruciating, right?
Mhm.
But what's at the end of it? At the end of it, it's a beautiful butterfly with beautiful wings. What's at the end of the birth? A beautiful baby boy or baby girl who took 9 months to materialize. And now all that was worth it for what I'm holding in my hands, right?
Mm.
The death when I'm restored and I'm renewed and I renew my life in Christ, and now I show up as a new creation. I'm like, I walk different. I breathe different. I move different. I can sense that, like, I don't want any parts of that over there because it feels dark from a mile away. No, thank you. And so
Mhm.
all of those things come together for the good of what we are. And so there does need to be the storms, there does need to be the death, and there does need to be the restoration that needs to happen for us to have fulfilling lives.
100%. You know, we've all heard the stories of the seed going into the ground, and as the seed goes into the ground, it must die. Like people forget that. People forget that in order for us to have the trees and the fruit and all of that stuff, that seed must first die. You said something that really sparked a thought, and I want to get your opinion or your thought process on it. When we talk about childbirth, I was listening to a story last week, and it was talking about when elephants are born. When a baby elephant is born, the herd of the female elephants, they come and they kick dirt, and they really have like this celebration, but they also do this thing where they cover the newborn elephant to make sure that it's protected from predators. And I think sometimes when I heard that story, it was so insightful and so just like revolutionary, because I believe when people sit in spaces like you and I, and we've written a book and we've have the business and we do all the stuff, people don't see the dirt that was on us, or we had to put on this thing that we birthed in order to protect it. Some people don't even see the pain that goes through of pushing this thing out and then having to cover it and protect it before you could really present it to the world. What is your thoughts on that? And what are some ways that you've had to protect yourself? So I have two questions to kind of go with that story. What are some ways that you've had to protect yourself and from the world, or protect yourself, protect the gifts that you have birthed into this world? And then also looking at that herd of elephants that comes around that mama and that comes around that baby to protect it, lets me know the importance of your tribe, lets me know the importance of the people that you surround yourself with, that they're also protecting your gift and not coveting it, not being jealous of it, not envying it, not talking about you behind your back. I know that you talk to teenagers and youth in your as a youth minister, so I feel like this particular question is really going to be pivotal to them, but it's really pivotal to all of us in knowing how do we surround ourselves with people that's going to help us protect the dream, protect the passion, protect where God is trying to take us?
Well, that's a great question, and like you said, it's very loaded. But I'll do my best to unpack all of this. As it pertains to the book, and yes, I've written, technically I've written four or five. I published three. But what I've learned over time is that um, after the first one, you learn a lot going into the second one, and you learn even more going into the third one. For me, what I realized the most important thing is that you don't need to know everything.
Mm,
In fact, you need to know what you know, solidify what you know, and then surround yourself with trusted people to make sure to do what you need to do. I have an editor right now. You're talking about how to push it out. I kid you not. There was a chapter I worked on for 4 days straight. I mean, just I'm like, this is it. This story is hidden. I'm putting all of my life. I love this story. It is a part of who I am. And it's in the intensity of what I'm bringing to this is perfect. I know this is going to be a hit. Ship it over to my editor. And all I see is red marks
oh,
through the entire story. And I didn't even email back. I picked the phone up. I was just like, oh, wait, what? I was like, you just took out literally what I believe was the most important story of a 8 chapter book. And she's like,
mm,
it's not relevant and unimportant. She took basically like 1,000 words and condensed it down to like 50 and said that was the
mm.
point. I'm like, what about all the other stuff? She's like, it's unimportant. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? But then that's when I sat back and I said, okay, God, what do you want me to know here? Because I'm about to go real worldly here and start saying and doing some things that, we all came from somewhere, and I've come from some pretty interesting places. And so I don't hide that. I don't hide that from you. I won't hide that from the audience. I don't hide that from my teenagers. Your youth leader did a lot of stuff. And I can tell you what works and what doesn't work. And 80% of what I've done in life does not work. So the other 20,
Right.
here we are. But
Mhm.
I think when you talk about protecting yourself, you put that together, but you hired an editor to see things you can't see. So
Mhm.
when I'm going through this and I hand it over to an editor, and I'm looking at the fact that she's been published 29 times and has 7 bestsellers. Who the heck am I to say that that needs to be in there? And what does that come down to? That comes down to my ego saying that that belongs in there, but she's not looking at it from what you think is best. She's saying, what does your reader need? Not
Yeah.
you. What
Yeah.
does your reader need? That may be very important to you, and it may work well on stage, but on print, it means nothing.
Mhm.
Okay. And so what I mean by that is to get trusted people on your side, but also before that can happen, I realized that I needed to check myself and I needed to take my ego level and bring it down to humility, meaning that I don't know everything. But what I do know is that I don't know everything. So what I do know is to go get people to fill in the gaps of what I don't do well, which by the way I'm looking at it, and if I'm being honest, is a lot. Like
Mhm.
I'm one of those like ex dumb jock C plus students,
Mhm.
and I'm okay with that because I've always known that I can collaborate. Okay, I need this person for this person for this person for this person for this, and this person for this. And I bring us together in a meeting and say, all right, guys, here's my vision. How can we execute this? And I want each one of your expertise to come in and throw it on the table, and everyone is going to come away with this reward. But that starts with a level of humility and taking your ego and putting it in the garbage run for Tuesday and Friday mornings. Okay, it
Mhm.
needs to go. Right. And so with that, you need to build, and I know we're hitting on multiple different things, but I want to hit all point. To protect yourself is to realize you don't need to know everything and to
Yeah.
have the humility to go out and get what you need. And what that creates is a community. And
Mhm.
now, well, everybody's at different stages of their lives, but I've sort of broken it down to where at any point in your life, you need 3 important people in your life. And
Mhm.
for your audience out there, you can kind of mix this up how you want to, but in all my studies, this is the 3 people I think you need at any point in your life to be able to get through things. For one, you need a mentor. You need
Mhm.
somebody who's done it at a level that you want to be at. And it's sort of like your catch-all. They know they know a lot about what they do, but they have surface level knowledge in a many of things. And you want to make sure that person has a very good moral compass because this is the person you take all affairs to, everything, right? You don't hide anything from them. So I want you to choose somebody you absolutely trust because you're going to tell them the dark secrets that maybe some people in your own family don't know, right?
Mhm.
And I'm not talking about keeping stuff from like your spouse and things of that nature, but I'm talking about like your cousins, maybe some of your brothers, some of your siblings. Like they don't know everything. They know a lot, but they don't know everything. Like some of the dark sides of you. So for one, you need a mentor. Two, whatever industry you're in, whatever business you're in, you need an apprentice, somebody
Mhm.
who's already done what you do in your industry at a very high level. Meaning you go to them, we talked about humility earlier. We're talking about you come to them and say, here I am, master, teach me. Let me
Yeah.
work under you. Let me work with you. Let me understand all that you know. Teach me where I can be better at what I do, and I will always honor you for that. Almost treating them like, you know, someone who's in your family because obviously you have the mentor and now you have the apprentice side. And understand, some of these guys' roles may carry over into other things, but I do want those to be distinct people. And lastly is what I like to call the patriarch, the papa, the big daddy, grandpa, great grandpa, the one when you come to the family reunion, everybody goes there almost like a godfather type, but he's just grandpa because everyone in the room came from his lineage. You know that
Mhm.
guy. And I think you just need him around, which for me, my father, whom I lost after my birthday in my 30s, he was that for me. My I I did things in business my father couldn't even imagine. I've done a many of things. He was an artist. I'm more on the writer side. He was into the arts, from a painter, from a sculptor, from ceramics. And of course, I write books, I write speeches, I do curriculum, and I'm more on that side. I'm pen to pad. But when I used to call my father, I used to call him, and when you talk about finding this person who's more of a patriarch, a leader figure of a family, a leader of men out there, it's a person who just knows a lot about a lot,
Mm,
right? Just that wisdom that you get when you cross over 70, right?
mm,
And so what I use that for is like my moral compass. So I may be going into a deal my dad has no idea about, but I'll lay out the details and be like, Dad, I'm thinking about this. I'm not sure if I should go through with this deal, if I should do it this way. I lay out all the details, and he's like, well, son, if when you're doing a deal, if anybody comes out on the bad end of it, you probably shouldn't do it.
mhm,
So he became a good moral compass for me. It's not, it's sometimes some things are not illegal, but it's just not cool to do it, if that makes
mm,
sense. And so you want that person in your life who can give you that kind of clarity.
yeah,
You may already be thinking like, I'm not feeling too good about this, but you go share it with somebody else and they'll say, well, if you do this with this, then you can make it work. But
mhm,
you want someone who has the moral barometer to do things in the right way. Like you said, like what Jesus would do, like to where this everyone is not coming out of this fulfilled and satisfied. So therefore, maybe you should redirect or just don't do it at all because something about this is not right. And so that's the three people I think you need in your life: mentor, apprentice, and patriarch, moral barometer in your life. And I think if you start with those three people, if you keep those people close around you, I think you'll make a lot better decisions in life, and you'll find more purpose and fulfillment because you'll have all that you need to be able to succeed.
mm. That's good, Ahmad. I really love that. God gave me a very similar three that I'll share at another time of people that I believe that you should have in your life whenever you're trying to birth something and push something out. But I love that, and I love that you really gave homage to your dad, in telling that story because him being that patriarch in your life, which is really what kinda connected us on this platform and us being able to do this podcast together because as you mentioned earlier, when I heard your story about your father passing away, which again, my condolences, I know it's been some years, but it doesn't take away the pain that we feel when we lose a parent. Um, but your father passing away a day after your 33rd birthday, if I'm not mistaken, and
Right.
that really hit me to my heart because as I shared this year, I turned 44 and my mother passed away the day after my 44th birthday, which as we were sharing, pre-interview, I was saying like a lot of people may not have that unique experience. That's very hard to understand why it happened that way because now that this is your patriarch. This is the person that has fed you wisdom your whole life. This is the person that has geared you in the right direction when maybe you were going off course. This is the person that shared so much wisdom and helped you become the man that you are today. How has the passing of your father, and I definitely want to be sensitive to any listeners that are listening that may be dealing with any type of grief, that are dealing with any type of pain. I'm going to have some information in the show notes for a local number here in California, at least, and it may be worldwide. It's not 888, or I'm sorry, 988, where you can literally dial and you can get someone on the phone that can help you through some of these grief moments. But like the storm of life that we were talking about, there's a blessing on the other side. We can't see it while we're in it. And you reference Romans, I can do all things, no, not I can do all things through Christ to strengthen me, but um not count it all joy.
Well,
What
all things are for the good of those who love him, called according to his purpose. Romans 8:28.
yes, Romans 8:28, and you were saying that your dad passing you're petitioning God and you're asking him to show you the all, all things working together for the good of them in this situation. How has that grief also produced some of your greatest blessings?
Well, interestingly enough, it produced blessings the night it happened. The story that how that went down was very long, but just to make it short, I was very spiritually arrogant during that time. I was part of a
Mm,
religious group, where the kind of the secret was out during that time. The thoughts are
mhm,
things, and just magically stuff will happen if you just say it, and you learn very quickly like that's a dangerous way to go about your faith, for
mhm,
sure. And I think God was teaching me a very valuable lesson with the night of my father. And of course, I thought, I asked God to say make sure he lives, and obviously, my dad fought for 4.5 hours, and it was time to go. And I remember going out to the parking lot. I'm crying, I'm pissed off, I'm screaming at God in the parking lot, and I'm just like, I mean, your word said you'll never leave nor forsake me. Yet
mm,
I'm out here. You took my dad from me. We got things to do. My business is taking off. I'm doing things. I'm about to get married. Man, what? I didn't use profane words, but I pushed the line. Let's just say
yeah,
that. And I'm like, and I remember just almost falling on myself after, consoling my family, whom are in there and none of them know what to do. So I'm the guy in charge now, and I don't know what I'm doing. But I
mm,
remember the voice of God speaking to me, and God said to me, like, hey, I know, I hear you, my son, and I never have left you.
mm,
However, your father is going to walk out of this hospital as you. He's given you everything you need. He's giving you the integrity. He's giving you the work ethic. He's giving you the values. Now go out and be who your heavenly father and your earthly father has called for you to be. And I
wow,
remember at that moment, like I'm still trying to figure out like what's happening. And I remember in that moment, I was just like, well, what do you want me to do? Like he so now I knew that it was for me to take on the mantle of head of family. And while I knew God was calling me to do that, I still screwed it up. I went
mm,
I went 4 years trying to do things my way, because my thing was after dad died, I'm like, okay, I got to go out and get my hustle on to take care of everybody. But what I forgot to do, Tamika, is I forgot to bring my family along for the journey.
mm,
I went out on my own and said, let me go do the hero's journey by myself and do this on my own. Meanwhile, my people are back home suffering, going through their own trials. I'm not anywhere to be found other than some holidays and here and there. And so the only thing that actually brought us back together was my divorce, which crushed me, only to have to go back and face the very people I turned my back on 4 years ago.
wow,
And so you talk about humility.
mhm,
That's where I was. But the beautiful thing was is that it took me on a path that brought me, even though it brought me to levels of spirituality which I would not claim today, but it led me on the path to where I am, where I'm supposed to be. So it led me to a lot of churches that were kind of alternative Christian churches, right?
mhm,
Because it was like, okay, we're going to study the words of Christ, but we're going to invite all these other religions in as too. And I was just like, oh, okay, well, that's the best of all worlds. Why not? And so I did that for like 10 or 12 years.
oh,
Well,
wow,
during that time, I didn't do much at the church other than attend the church. Well,
mhm,
one day I was asked to do what's called platform, which is basically just announcements, whatever.
mhm,
I was up there for 3 to 5 minutes, and someone was just like, "You have such a presence. Would you like to lead a Wednesday night service?" Wow. From 5 minutes on the platform? Okay, cool. And I remember doing a talk on a Wednesday night service. In the audience was a woman who was the assistant youth family uh, youth director. And she said, I think you have a good presence. Would you like to put a 3-part series together and teach our teenagers? I'm like, cool. She's like, yeah, and we'll pay you. And I'm like, even better, whatever. So I go and I'm putting together this 3-part series and teaching these young people, which ended up being titled I Am More Than Enough, which ended up being my second book. And the class grew every time I taught. It went from
Wow.
27 to 35, 35 to bringing in tables up to 40. When I got done, the woman asked, she's like, would you like to hang around as a volunteer? Whatever. Okay, cool. And I started doing it and I was like, I don't know if this is really for me. Then an older gentleman, and I always like to show love to this guy. His name is Royce. He saw me there one day and he was like, I see that you're running around here wondering if you fit. And he's like, I want to tell you right now, you may not know ministry. He's like, but I know a man's heart. I'll teach you the
Mm.
ministry, but you're willing and have the heart. That start with me working with youth. We built that ministry up to be 40% of the entire youth and family ministry in 3.5 to 4 years.
Wow.
COVID happened. I ended up leaving there because my values were challenged. We don't have time to go into that. But my
Mhm.
values were challenged. As you can tell, in 2020, a lot of things changed and the mask came off of a lot of things. But
Uh-huh.
I ended up falling into a Bible-based church where it's very Old Testament, it's very unapologetic, it sticks to the word. And I've been with that church going on, I'll be 4 years now in October. And now
Mm.
I have a ministry with 75 to 100 teenagers whom I love very much and who love me. And I have grown so much. And I told them, because I taught Sunday school 2 weeks ago, and I said, you know, without my father dying, I don't think I'm here.
Wow.
Because that line of all the things that happened to leave me there would have never happened. I would have still been out here chasing dollars, chasing fame, chasing whatever was superficial, while I'm still claiming to be in the word, but I'm not really in it like that. I can
Mhm.
quote a few scriptures, but I'm not really in it. And so when you look in totality, you know, I have a program that I use through my new book. It's called What's Good Here. I have people take the most traumatic thing in their life and write ways and think about ways why it was the greatest blessing that ever happened, because you may not have thought about it, but there was a chain reaction of things that happened because of what happened to you, and you won't put the pieces together until you literally sit down, cry about it, put it on a pen and pad, and lay out there, look at it, let your tears soak the ink off the pen, and then be like, you know, I ended up meeting so and so because of that. And they introduced me to this person. I ended up getting this job and I ended up working for this client. Or
Yep.
something, you'll find some kind of way where the worst thing that ever happened to you that was supposed to kill you, but by the grace, you're still here. That will bring you to a place to where now you're just like, wow, that is what set all of this off. And so that led to all those different things. And then, you know, the stuff that happened with COVID, it's like, yes, people, it's like, why are you so intense? It's like, because I'm like, how in the world am I still here? How in the
Yeah.
world did how many times was I supposed to like be in an obituary? Like,
Mm.
not as the one who's surviving, but as the one who's gone. Like
Yeah.
all of those things. And I sit back and I say, man, God, you delivered me from so much junk and darkness. And now I stand in front of teenagers and they're trusting me with their lives. And I'm like, I don't feel worthy, but it's like, I know that you brought me here for this place. And this time when we need people who are unapologetic and saying, I'm going to stand up for something and I'm not going to let the nastiness and the gender bending and all of this other craziness go on, and telling our young people who they are and who they're not, and that they're doing all of these things that are just not working for the good of who they are. And somebody's like, has to come along and say, enough of this. And
Yeah.
crazy enough, I'm just like, you know what? Take your hands off our children. Stop telling my guys they're not leaders and not worthy. Stop telling women that there's liberation and having as many sexual partners as possible. I'm done with this crap. Okay. I'm done playing nice with these situations that are going on in society today. And so I'm not like this until I got run through the ringer and I was told to ask somebody who their name is every Sunday morning. I'm
Mm.
not doing it. Right.
Mm.
And so I know I went off on a tangent. And
No, that's good.
I'm just I love my youngsters so much.
Mm. Mm.
There's not much I wouldn't do to protect them
Yeah.
out here. And so all the years come into this time right now to where it's like, I'm here, use me. Make me to what I need. recreate me, transform me to what I need to be the advocate for young men across the country and across the world. What
My
does
God.
that look like? I don't have a clue. All I know is I'm reading your word and asking you to reveal to me, because even though I'm reading it all the time, I know at some point I'm missing something. So I need you to fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
That's where I am with this.
Oh, Ahmad, my goodness. Um, I just heard this, I heard God just saying nothing's wasted. Like literally nothing's wasted. Everything that you've been through. And I know that this is for someone listening as well. Nothing's wasted. We have these mountaintop experiences and we have these valley lows. And it feels like, what the heck did I go through that for? And literally nothing is wasted. God is the master connect the daughter, right? He just connects all the dots. And I also hear God saying that recently you were in prayer and you were asking God to see your heart, like to really see your heart. And God says he sees it. He literally sees your heart, Ahmad, and he knows that none of you're not doing any of this. You know, of course, the benefit of it is the money and the fame and all of that will happen, but God sees that you truly have a heart for his children, for his young people, the voiceless, the people that feel like they don't have a voice. And so again, this is another reason why God connected us, because I too work with young people and I count it a blessing every single day to be able to really cultivate the hearts of young people and really be able to speak life into them. All of this, everything that you just shared, the age, like dealing with the new age stuff and all of that, all of those things and how all dots connected to get you to where you are today, also got you to a point where you published your third book and you're able to really help other people see that nothing is wasted. Tell me more about your most recent book.
So my most recent book is titled Now What? 5 Steps to Get Up and Create the Most of Life. I wrote that in the middle of 2020, and you can kind of feel where a real shift happened in 2020. Maybe your people knew a few things that were going on during that time. Um,
Yeah.
I was I was just tired of the conversations of 2020. And I'm not really concerned about what side of the pendulum your people are politically. I could care less. What I'm here for is the values, right? Um, it was okay when society was calling out women and men and different things of that nature and stuff. 2020 showed me that all bets were off when they went after the children. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
they can't go to school, they can't interact. You tell them that they can't have, time with one another. I'm not saying this is not dangerous, but without having human contact, what what's the what's the trade-off?
Yeah.
Um, and I, fought with, my former church about that. They were just like, we're going to meet after 6 months and we're going to meet out in the courtyard and we're going to have our picnic blankets out and we're going to be 10 feet apart. And, we're just going to just hang out with one another and all this stuff. And I'm like, if my teens run up to me, I'm tackling them and I'm
Exactly.
going to roll all over the ground and just love them because
Yeah.
I miss them. And he's like, well, Lamont, I can't let you do that. And I was like, I'd like to see you stop me. But
Right.
it never ended up happening because I didn't want to be that guy. I could have been that guy, but I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to participate in this whatsoever. And so Now What was written at a time when, stuff was going on politically, racially, societally, or whatever. But if we really want to be honest, everything that went on in 2020 mainly was spiritual. Nobody wants to have that conversation. There was a dark undercurrent of there was an undercurrent of darkness that was going on all over the place, and some people caught the fungus. And I'm not talking about COVID. They caught
100%.
the ideology. They caught the anti-biblical things. They caught the idea that God didn't create men and women anymore. There was something else. It's like, oh, really? So I was done with the excuses. You got people out there talking about you owe me for stuff that I didn't go through. And I said, man, forget this. And so I wrote a book to where it helps people who feel like there's nowhere else to go, because I used the profile of a couple different people who are in like dire straits, like wow, you have all this going on. God, you're gonna have to help me with this one because all of my coaching practice is completely out the door because I don't know what I'm doing. Like, because this is like a dead end. And so I came up with a 5-step solution to be able to get people from out of the darkness, out of the valley, and into a place of purpose and fulfillment. And so the 5 steps are first to reflect, right? The first of 5 steps is to reflect. How did we get here? There's a kid screaming in the other room. There's a pile of dirty clothes in the living room, and I think the garage is on fire. So I got all these fires going on. So, like, how did we get here? And so you have to identify and take responsibility and say, okay, how did I screw all of this up? And it's like, well, it's not my fault. Oh, no, it is. It is, because you were a participant in it.
Yeah.
Right. And we don't want to have that conversation. Like, even if you go up to somebody and say, you're wrong about this. Well, yes, I am a participant in your wrongness. So I have a role in it. It may be small, but here we are. So the first thing is to reflect. And we go through a lot of processes, and each chapter has a lot of different processes, how we can go through reflection. Then it's time to decide, okay, my life, and I'm going to use a choice word. It's not a profanity, but like right now, my life sucks. And I don't like any part of it. Okay, well, if it didn't suck, what would you want to do? And so at this point, we decide, like, okay, I want to start a podcast. I want to write a book. I want to start a family. I want to start a new career. I want to go back to school. I want a new skill. I want to own a franchise. Okay, now we know what we've decided to do. We put it up there as the big goal. There it is. Now, step 3 is to go through the planning phase. Okay, here's this big goal. I have no clue what to do. Now it's time to do some recon. All right, what do I need to do to be able to do this? Do I need some education? What kind of funding do I need? Who does this? Who's done it before? Can I study them? What books do I need? What education do I need? All the things. So you start gathering all those things, and then we do what's called work in reverse. Okay, maybe you don't have the money to afford this right now. Okay, now it's time for you to not do what you want to do, but do what you have to do. Go get that part-time job at Jack in the Box if that's what it takes. Go work Uber Eats if you need to. Go sell plasma if you have to. I don't care how you get the money or what you need to get done. This is the time when life gets a little dirty and ugly. Like you said, when the seed goes into the ground and it needs to die. Your ego needs to die in the planning phase, because now you're about to decide, you're about to plan to do things that you absolutely don't want to do. And we've all been there, right? And then once you get the reflection, decision, and the planning done, now it's time to take action. And no, everything you did in all 3 of those parts before are not going to work the first time. They're going to fail multiple times. So get ready for that. But you know what? We stay moving forward. We get beat up along the way. We run into a bear trap, and I think I just got bit by a snake. It's okay. You keep it moving, and we're going to keep doing this. And so at this time, like, you're actively going after certain things, and you're actively bringing people along for the journey, and you're actively seeking, doing all the things that you need to do. And so that is, so you reflected, you decided, you planned, and now you've taken action. And the last one, and a very important one, is to seek. Seeking guidance, seeking help, seeking wisdom, right? Like, we are not supposed to do this thing alone. And I can't stand when people say, man, I did this all by myself. I got it out the mud, just me. You're lying. And stop lying to the people, because nobody does anything alone. Not from the richest man to the bum on the street. Nobody does life alone. Nobody definitely gets successful alone. They have board of directors. They have you always hear that, like, there's Steve Jobs, and it's like his inner circle. His inner circle is smarter than him, and he's very smart. But he puts people around him who are very smart. And so this is the time when you find the mentor, you find the apprentice, you find the moral barometer, you find allies who do what you do well. Like, I know I can't stand spreadsheets.
Right.
I despise Excel spreadsheets. So when someone comes on and says, I'll help you with business, I do spreadsheets, it's like, you're hired immediately. I don't want to do that. I don't like follow-up emails. I don't like any of that. You know what I like to do? I like to read. I like to speak. I like to travel and empower. All
Yeah.
the logistics. I don't even want to sell my own books. I want somebody else doing that. My manager does a great job with that. Just call me over to sign. I don't
Right.
want to do any of that. Just tell me what's on the credit card machine and what's in the money bag, right? And we'll take care of everything else from there. But you have to seek people and keep a community of people around you. Stop trying to do this thing called life alone, and have some humility. And Tamika, it's interesting that you're catching me at this time, because like I'm really, really, really like in this really crazy storm in my 40s. And I'm like, this feels like as bad as when I was in my mid-20s.
Mm,
Like I feel like even though I've had success, I've spoken in 5 countries, it don't matter. You're going into a new season. And like this is painful. It's
yeah.
painful to have cancellations. It's painful to look around and try to figure out what's next. And I realize, like, even as much as I teach what I teach, I realize, like, okay, this is the time of life when maybe you're not regressing, but you need to go back to do things when you were back making $26,000 a year. You need to go
Yeah.
back to some of those tactics. And I recently reached out to a couple of guys and I said, you know what? I respect you guys and I need your help.
Mm,
I need help. I need help in organization. I need help in focus. I need help in getting some bookings after some cancellations. Can you help with a referral? Can you help me clear my head? I got a lot of ideas. I don't know what to do with them. And the crazy thing is, when you put your heart out there in humility, for one, you'll realize that people have been waiting and needing your service for a long time, and you've just never asked.
mhm.
Like a guy I talked to recently is starting a whole new wing of his company. And he was like, how are we going to do this? And it was just like, when I got on the line with him, he's like, you've made curriculum. You've spoken in all these different places. He's like, I have all the logistics. I got all the cameras, but you're a speaker. You're a teacher. You know how to do all of these things. What if we just put you in front of the camera and teach all of this stuff? But if I wouldn't have said, I'm hurting right now, I need help, he
Yeah.
would not have been blessed in that way. Not to mention, when you go to people and ask for help, it's not something to be embarrassed about, because someone had to put this in my mind one time. If you don't ask other people for help, how's God going to bless them?
That's right.
You block their blessing by being too arrogant and too self-absorbed to not
Mm,
allow them to help you.
right.
When my mom passed out in my house recently, I remember taking her to the ER. I was in there for 28 hours. And I came out to the parking lot, charged my phone up, and I called one of my brothers and I was like, look, guys, I am broken. I got nothing left. All I
Mm,
have is y'all on the phone.
mm,
And you know what? They were activated. Not only did they lay everything down and give it to me, they called on more reinforcements. And I
mm,
had an army of people around me within hours, because I said, look, guys, I love y'all and I got nothing left. And we have to get to the point where we get out of our own way.
yeah.
We're not meant to figure it out. We're meant to live in communities and meant to be loved and give love. And here's the deal. Probably have some people who are listening who are servant leaders out there doing the good work. Well, you know what? Like my manager tells me, sometimes you got to go get your harvest, right?
Mhm.
You've been planting. Hey, can you go get some crops? Can you go get your flowers? Please? Like, because I was like, man, this gig came in. This gig came in. It's like, man, I'm so surprised. He's like, why, brother? You've been giving to the people for 8, 10, 9, 12 years. Isn't
Yeah.
it time for you to get your blessing? And I was like, you know, you get so caught up sometimes and thinking that things are supposed to go a certain way. You know what? None of us know what the heck we're doing.
Mm-mm.
Not fully. We have faith, and faith is always in something we don't have a clue about. But we
Mhm.
just know that we serve a God who's going to always provide, who never fails us, has never left us. It's the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. All of
Mhm.
these things. But we still have times wondering, like, I wonder if he's going to deliver him. Oh, okay. So he left all the other people in the word to rot. And but
Right.
and you're just not going to get yours. And so
Have to a
I want
person,
people
right? Mhm.
I want people to get that. And now what will, for the person you have in your life who hasn't quite figured out life, or maybe just they got punched a few times too many and haven't gotten up off the mat yet. This is a
Mhm.
perfect book to be able to get them from start A to start B and at least get them on a path where they're getting a little bit more confidence and being able to do more for themselves.
Mm.
It's not a magic bullet. It does have to be worked very diligently, and it may take time. No, it will take time. Not an
Mhm.
easy fix, but at least it'll put them in the right mindset to be able to do great and amazing things and bring fulfillment to their lives and the lives of their families.
Mm. Now what? Now what? I absolutely love that title. I will make sure we have the link for you to purchase the book in the show notes. Ahmad, I just really want to honor you and thank you for stepping on the TWT platform and sharing so transparently, so authentically, so vulnerably. We truly honor that over here at Tuesday with Tamika. Your passion for life, your passion for the youth has not gone unnoticed. And I truly wish you uninterrupted God success in everything that you are doing. TWT family, make sure you go over to the show notes. We're going to have all the information for you to get in contact with Ahmad. In fact, before we leave, I want him to share, where can the TWT find you? Where do you hang out online? How can we get in contact with you?
Well, AhmardVital.com is the hub, and thank you for allowing me to share all this information. Ahmard Vital, it's the same across the board: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. It's Ahmard Vital, no aliases. It's just me. Also, for those of you who are interested in Now What the book, obviously I would love for you to go purchase one. But my publisher has made free digital copies available for you to preview if you'd like. Booknowwhat.com. That's booknowwhat.com. You can get a free digital copy. Just put your email address in and get your free digital copy. We'd love to share that with you. And for all of you regular TWT listeners out there, it's on my heart to extend something to you. I know that some of you, I know you said that there you have a large group of ladies who tune in, and some of them may be mothers. And some of you may have an XY chromosome in the other room, and maybe he's a young man. He's in his teen years, and you're over there just like, what the heck is he doing in there? And why do not understand this young man? Um, that's understandable because that's just how we're wired or whatever. And if there's some things going on, and maybe he's in a season, and the season has gone on a little bit too long, I am offering complimentary coaching discovery calls. 45 minutes. It's on me. I'll tie that back to you all. But just reach out to me and just put TWT in the subject line, and we'll get you set up. Just have a couple of questions to get things started, and then we'll set that call up with you and possibly with the young man, and just see if we can get our young guys out there. I'm a guy who's very big on personal responsibility, accountability, and men taking their rightful place as leaders. That's not misogynistic. That is the order of life according to the word. Don't quote me. Quote there. Um, and I want men to take their rightful place, and that is not to step on top of our female counterparts. That is to lead and guide and complement, right? But the bottom line is that we as men have to build the world, and
Yeah.
there's no way around that. There is all these bridges, all the infrastructure that is from men, and I want to put men in the best possible situation to be able to continue doing that, because there is a crisis between men and women right now, and there's too much infighting. But it's going to start with the idea of restoring in men whom they are, right? Because
Yeah.
society has lied to them and telling them to get in touch with their feelings and get in touch with their soft side. Okay, I'm not that guy. Okay, I'm not saying that you're supposed to just be this big meathead, run through walls and get mad and be all just aggressive all the time. But half the time, I do want you to be very, very strong and stoic and very pragmatic and direct, right? We're not here to be agreeable. We're here to get stuff done and have
Mm.
purpose and fulfillment. And I want guys to get that back, right? And we'll let everything else fall into place as it be. So if there's a young man out there who is struggling right now and needs the help of a man who's been through quite a bit and still going through some of those fires, send them over to me, and we'll do our best to be able to help them through this journey called life.
Thank you so much, Ahmad. Lady, you guys have been asking me for years to have a man come on to coach. And although my husband does partner with me, his schedule is crazy. We actually have a brother that is offering his services. Now, after that complimentary one, you're going to have to put some skin in the game, and you're going to have to make that investment. And trust me, I have a wild feeling that it is going to pay off. Sisters, we are out here healing. We are out here elevating. We're out here restoring. Get your brothers, get your cousins, get your sons, get, that guy that you dating and you think he the one. Get him some therapy, get him some coaching, get him some of those services as well, so you guys can walk in alignment. Ahmad, again, I thank you. I thank you. I thank you so much. TWT family, I thank you for subscribing. I thank you for going over to Apple Podcasts and rating. I thank you for going over to TuesdayWithTamika.com and ordering your book of unpacking. It is out. It is ready for you all to consume, to continue to unpack that healing. It is time. It is time. God has so much work for us to do. The harvest is ripe, but the labors are few. Let's go ahead and do the work so we can get the harvest. Until next week. Bye-bye.